Hang on, everybody.
Can you hear me, Pastor Paul?
Yeah. Yes, I hear you, Mike. I hear you.
Okay.
Yes.
Small delay.
Small delay. Well, maybe I won't talk as
Yeah.
much, and then that way I won't get beat up for interrupting. Mike, I want to apologize that we couldn't use the phone as we normally do, but where I'm at right now, yesterday the phones were working. Today they're not.
Don't worry
So we had
about
to
it.
go this route. Okay. Anyway, how you doing, Mike?
Great. And somewhat of a standstill and preparing for some collateral damage.
Mm. I'm wondering if you're. Are we talking about anything going on with the Middle East right now?
Well, that's a hot topic. Actually, they want Israel to play one of the major roles in some of the offensive strategies that could go forward should diplomacy fail.
Okay. So, in other words, and I do know that there was 3 days of meetings that was going on in Geneva. Oman as being the mediator. Those meetings ended, no deal, and I don't even think they're close. But they have said, Iran has said that they are willing to talk next week in Vienna. So when you say they're waiting on Israel, what do you mean?
Well, they want Israel to. They feel better if Israel were to launch some sort of offensive against Iran, should we have to go down that road, right? They don't feel as comfortable as far as an overall strategy if the USA outright did something, right? So there, so many things are on the table, and there are many question marks. But yeah, it's where we are right now. And of course, Saturdays are one of the best times to engage in any tactical engagement because of the stock market. Well, things here at home, right? The stock market will not respond until Monday, and other factors are involved. So we'll see where this goes. Right now, it does not look. It looks as though Iran continues to come up with some sort of rebuttal and ridiculous conditions of how they're not going to give up anything. Their excuse is the USA lies. And of course, President Trump has some pretty strict demands, so they'll never have a nuclear weapon. And that, I believe, that's part of the fallout.
Yeah. It's a great assessment you're giving us. Yeah, the echo is gone. I'm sorry we had an echo when Mike first came on. I have pushed that button and got rid of that. So, Mike, you're sounding great,
Okay.
and so
Great.
am I. So that's really good.
Good.
Let's talk about it, Mike, for a minute. You're right. President Trump has said that they're not going to allow Iran to have any type of nuclear capability. And I think he's also saying that he also is not going to let them have intercontinental ballistic missiles. Is that correct?
Yeah. Because all are threatening. Those things are quite threatening, and he just doesn't want that. It's too dangerous for the Middle East.
So let's say this is Thursday night. So let's say this thing carries into Saturday, Friday night. I would think any time now we're kind of going into high alert, wouldn't we?
Yeah. Saturday, of course, that's a time where the markets are closed. So as far as financial kickback, that's going to be secured. That's one of the biggest issues we have, as far as weaponry is concerned. We have that covered, right? There are some unknown factors, of course, but President Trump does not want America to take a hit because of any strike or something like that. So yeah, Saturday would be any Saturday would be one of the prime times, best times to do that.
Plus, I would think, to your point, Mike, that if you hit on a Saturday, by Monday morning, the fallout's pretty well over. If
Right.
if it's successful, and I believe it will be, then you literally eliminate Iran's capability to respond
That's
or to
right.
retaliate, and then the stock market then won't react negatively, maybe
That's right.
positively.
That's right. That's right. And that's a big deal. That's a very big deal. So we're going to see where that thing goes. We'll see where that goes.
Now,
But you know
Mike,
what, Pascal,
go ahead.
I with any engagement with Iran, the unknown factors. You know, there are people who comb through some of the unknown factors or things that could take place. And again, this will be the first time that America and Israel cooperatively have gone against Iran. So this would be so significant, right? And to actually, if there's a success where we diminish the regime there, that's right out of the Bible. That's right out of the Bible.
Yeah, it really is. But let me ask you,
Yes.
are we concerned, or have we got assurances from the Russians, the Turks, and the Chinese that there will be no interference?
No. Nope. Russia has significant investments in Iran, right?
Yeah.
Turkey is a wild card. They really are. There are other nations that will quickly side with the Islamic world should Iran begin its, cry for help against the West. Because again, if the USA and Israel engage in some sort of tactical engagement, that changes everything. Everything has changed. That's an unusual situation in which the Islamic world said they would, bind together against the West in this case. And so that's a real counterfactor that people have to account for, tacticians have to account for, which gets into casualties, unexpected casualties, other nations that may come into this war for specific reasons, one reason or another. It will also erupt if that were to ever happen. Fights would erupt in Europe, Berlin, for example. Fights would erupt in the UK. Fights would erupt, or fighting would erupt near Mexico and the USA border. So you're looking at a slew of things that would take place should that cooperation between the USA and Israel go forward tactfully, right? That's what they're expecting. Now, nobody absolutely knows the outcome, but this is a probable feedback element that has to be looked at and accounted for.
So let's talk about that in a minute, because this is a great point, folks. Let's say U.S. makes their move. Let's say Iran was able, Mike, to get some ballistic missiles off. Maybe Hezbollah was able to fire 1,000 missiles. Maybe the Houthis. And let's say Israel gets hit. Israel is going to respond. If they respond, does that mean other nations start to respond? Or do
Absolutely.
they sit back and wait? How do you see that playing out?
If Israel responds, other nations will come alongside. It'll turn into a faith war, is what you'll have. At first, the dynamic will be the powerful USA against, Iran for any specific reason. But then if Israel gets involved, that's a wider regional war, in which case it'll quickly turn into a faith war, because they're looking at prophecies of Islam, just like we're looking at prophecies of the Bible, right? So given the times we live in, if that should take place, they're going to be very serious about those prophecies, and it will spread like wildfire, which will all but eliminate most tactful thinking as far as just standard war is concerned. It'll quickly spiral into this faith war that will actually erupt. The whole world will begin to erupt, right? So that's what could put that. That's a big likelihood that would take place.
Now, the good news would be if the United States could go in and just surgically just take out. I think the Iranians, and I'm sure I'm not right, but I think they have about 11 different nuclear potential facilities. Not all make centrifuges, but I'm sure they store some enriched uranium in one place, parts and components to make warheads maybe in another location. I know it's not all their eggs in one basket, but let me say this. What about Bashir? Because Bashir, I remember covering this 10 years ago, talking to you about the fact that Bashir nuclear facility was built by the Russians for about $1 billion, and that was 10 years ago. Has Russia sent a message that do what you want, but don't touch Bashir? Does Russia claim that as theirs?
2.5 months ago, they said that, right? 2.5 months ago, they said that to the USA. That was 2.5 months ago.
That's pretty big, Mike, because that's a very powerful location.
It's a big investment. It's a big investment. And so this brings up something else too. Russia's not the only one that has significant investments and returns from Iran, right? China does. China desperately has significant investments and returns from Iran. And if we're not surgical, we will ultimately draw in those forces, right? They will begin to act. Now, here's an issue. Suppose we surround Iran, but the major retaliation does not come from Iran. This is also a question. Can you imagine if we were surrounding Iran, but retaliation came from North Korea or China or parts of Russia, pieces of the Baltic states or something like that? So all these are factors, and that's why it's taken so long. This is not this is not Venezuela. This is far larger and involves too many people, too many nations.
This is the brink of World War III. This could trigger World War III.
Like Pearl Harbor. You know what? World War III was happening before the USA was involved. And I believe this could be the Pearl Harbor that involves the USA and what's been happening in the Middle East. This could be it. And again, I know the outlook looks like it could be one way, but this is the Middle East we're talking about. This is also a nation in which Russia, with their contentions with Iran, they failed. The USA failed the first couple times dealing with Iran. Everybody has failed dealing with Iran, right? So, and it's not because of their weaponry. There's a weird factor associated with Iran. We both know what that is. You're dealing with darkness and a core or a central location of darkness. I believe that's also one of the reasons biblically it will be undone. That regime is absolutely 100% possessed by something, right? Even their rhetoric today was hostile, and the people are totally duped over there. The regime and the people who follow the regime, those commanders, they're totally duped, fooled, deranged by the regime. They actually believe what the regime says. Here's a statement from them just today that if they go into a deal and America lies, right, then America is going to pay for it dearly like they did last time. There was no last time.
There was
but this is what their military believes. This is what a big majority of their populace believes. They believe what's coming out of the Ayatollah's mouth. So
propaganda.
Here we are. Yeah. And they're totally sold on that.
So in other words, they're being told that last time they made significant damage to the United States or to Israel. And so they've told their people that. So their people their faith is higher, and their faith not only in the Ayatollah, but their faith in Allah.
Yeah. And because their media is so controlled,
let me ask you this
question.
They
can't see the truth of the situation.
This is a crazy question, but
if the truth ever went inside, past the people to the regime, there would be no regime. Yes.
Right. If the people really knew what was happening, but they don't know. My question: Bill Clinton tomorrow is going to be questioned. Would that be a good cover day for a strike? I mean, if the whole news is going to be so focused on Bill Clinton, and is that a good day to make a move if you're the United States?
You know what? Ironically, Pastor Paul, the Hillary today, that was a big nothing ball, right?
It sure was.
It went from Epstein to aliens quickly, So Bill Clinton's going to be no different. He has to explain a couple of photos, but it's also a big nothing ball, right? There are too many people that are looking for the rest of those files, not necessarily a testimony from those individuals. That's that situation. But tomorrow's Friday, right? Tomorrow's Friday, which it is a market day. I don't
so
believe
you're saying
the Clinton factor won't be that big of a deal it just won't be that big of a deal, to do anything.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be another nothing. And your point is President Trump will try not to do something that would affect that market in a negative way. Each time he's done something, whether it was the midnight hammer that he hit with Iran, or whether it was the extraction of Maduro, he did that on Friday and Saturday nights. He did it on, when there was no market. So,
because we're dealing with oil too, right? And how bad would it be? He can't give him too much time because they could do exactly what Saddam Hussein did. He ignited the oil fields, right? Mm-hmm. Now we know in the Middle East, it's a practice to have devices on every single oil well out there. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were a bunch of devices on those oil wells, and at the push of a button, kapoof, and all that has to be checked out.
And that's a big deal, because even if the strike on Iran, multiple strikes on Iran would be successful, there could be explosions going on all over the Middle East from devices exploding, not just in Iran, but in other countries.
Yep. That was in a shockwave financially, by way of the markets and in every other way all around the world.
Now, there's a prophecy, Mike, as you know, in Jeremiah, where the Lord said that he would come from the four winds of heaven down on Elam. And I agree with you that area is under a possession. I mean, it's a demonic possession that's hovering and it's operating within the hearts of these people, and not all the people. There's also the church, the underground church of Iran is on fire. There's faith there that's praying for deliverance. Do you see that?
Yeah, they really do fight. I mean, they fight right in the face of dark. Those are incredible people. Incredible
they really
people.
They really are.
But yeah, it's a heaviness there. If anybody were to ever go over there, you can feel that heaviness. It's almost like instant insecurity. So you're on your guard. It's very heavily laden with darkness itself. And that's what Afghanistan's and other places like that. Actually, there are several other places like that. But Iran is the worst. It is the worst, and it will have the greatest impact should something happen, right? Disclosure coming up this year, Iran is going to be front and center in that disclosure topic.
Whoa! Wait a minute. Okay, now we're getting ready to do a webinar, and you've already, you and I've already talked. We've already taped for our alien disclosure webinar, which is coming up, folks, March the 20th. Are you saying that Iran may be involved in the disclosure announcement?
Oh, they would have to. They have a history in that subject or with that subject. They have a notable history with that subject. So yeah, they'll be that country is certainly going to be bought into disclosure. It certainly will be. But I tell you something, basketball. This year is going to be a year that I hope that people are prepared for right now. Take inventory right now. People see this topic as one thing right now. Many people are passive. Many people are saying, okay, let's move on to something else or some, everybody's going to have a different opinion, right? After these things come out, trust me, there are going to be people who, mark my words, you're going to notice a lot of people are going to take a protective stance for any species outside of humanity.
Wow. Are you serious?
Mark my words. You're going to see a sympathy and even probably I wouldn't be surprised if people get together and protest and organize and start going down that path, saying, with great sympathy towards these entities outside of humanity. Oh, yeah. And in that way, every Christian should know at that point it's beginning. This last curtain call is beginning with that, whenever that takes place. But there will be great sympathy from the populace, from a great many people in the populace. They'll see humanity as the enemy and those things as something different.
So they're going to see them as the savior of the salvation. Are they going to embrace, because they're being taught for 20 years. Ancient Aliens on the History Channel for 20 years has preached this message that there is no God that created Jesus and all that, that there's ancient aliens, that we are the byproduct. We are the children. We're the offspring of these extraterrestrials, these ETs. So if we have people turn against them or condemn them or challenge them or say they are here to hurt us, you're saying there's going to be a large portion of the populace that's going to embrace the ETs or these entities as if they're there as our saviors.
That's right. That's right.
How messed up will that be?
They're going to see them as folks who have been bound in our history. Pastor, there are going to be people who believe in Christ and their own family members will take a stance for those entities, right? Believing the narrative that's being presented to them, because what people, I guess what's not seen, most of the people who quietly believe in this subject also believe the narrative that's not in the Bible, right? They also believe that the Bible does not cover that narrative. And there are going to be Christians who are going to be lost in the sauce because they did not do their due diligence to make that connection with the Bible, right? It's not very difficult, but it is difficult when you grasp it for the first time because it can be overwhelming. It can be very overwhelming, but people will face that.
That's why these webinars are so important, to explain to people what are these entities, what are we looking for. They're different. There's different species of entities. There's different levels. But if we ignore it, if the body of Christ ignores it, and as you said, don't do their due diligence, then they're going to be thrown off so bad. They're going to be shocked so bad. They're just going to fall for the narrative without knowing the biblical narrative.
Yeah. You know what's strange, Pastor Paul? I'm going to go out on a limb. I would say that for the vast majority of your listeners and listeners out there and believers in Christ, they've had their experience. They have had some sort of experience that went down that road. They just won't talk about it, right? But they've had that experience.
Right.
The problem is if they do not make that connection, because the Lord was very simple. He said, try the spirits by the Spirit. If it does not come in the name of the Lord, if it denies that Jesus Christ was raised from how can it be of the living God, right, in righteousness? Then it's on the opposite side. And sadly, most of these things, all the things that come forward, they deny Christ. They say he was just this or just that, which is, that's what people will fall for. But most Christians, the Lord has already introduced them into I'm going to call it the spookiness. They've had their spooky moments, right? And there's a drawing inside most Christians today into topics like they won't tell anybody, but I'm just being bold saying this. But people have been drawn to these subjects not so they can become experts in the subject, but I believe the Lord has been drawing people in the subject so they won't be ignorant concerning that subject. So to prepare them for this time that will surely change many things going forward.
This is a very important point, folks, that Mike is making tonight, and that is why we if people haven't really studied the Bible or haven't been taught this part of the scriptures, they will be shocked. And like you said, Mike, many people have had experiences, have had encounters, have had maybe even abductions, and they're just absolutely don't want to say anything about it for afraid that they will be, ostracized for that. They'll be considered loony or out there. And thus they're afraid. And this is why we have to be, as a church, we have to say, look, this stuff's going to happen. It's happening. It is happening. And prepare people that there is an answer. That's why Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Pastor Paul, he's given it to the same way. If you ask the average person, how do you know that is bad? They'll say, because I've dealt with that. And it almost killed me. That's how I know it's bad. Okay, wow. You dealt with it, right? So how would people know these spiritual entities? They've been drawn to the subject. That's why just about every single Christian out there, they know about the subject. They may say, well, I don't want to talk about it. Well, I don't want you. They've already been faced with that. It may have scared them, right? Mm-hmm. But the Lord does everything on purpose. He's equipping us. And the only way we can really combat darkness is to face that darkness. Otherwise, we're going to be tricked. We're going to be seduced. If we don't face darkness to find out it's truly darkness, we're going to think it's light. Like a person on drugs, they're not born as a child and say, I want to be hooked on drugs. That's not how it works, right? Small steps. They don't know that that specific drug has those addictive qualities. They don't know that. And so they continue to do it. Before you know it, their injury is okay. And now they're taking it to cope with society. But they didn't start out that way. That's the only way to combat that, is to have people in the body of Christ with knowledge of that. So they'll say, no, don't go down that road, or be careful going down that road. So in other words, we have to face darkness to know that darkness is truly evil. Then we're prepared to say no to it. Otherwise, we may say yes, thinking it's harmless. And with these entities, I'll say it again, there are going to be lots of people in the populace that fully embrace them. They will feel sorry for them. They'll feel like they've been mischaracterized. They'll turn against humanity just to protect them. They'll think they're nothing but good and that humanity has had it all wrong. They're going to call the Bible a lie. It's all coming out when this takes place. That's when the war, a true spiritual war, will really go to new heights.
Yeah, you're right. You are right. They are going to turn on the Bible. They're going to turn on God. They're going to embrace the aliens, and they're going to defend them, and they're going to take this thing hook, line, and sinker. That's why we have to be ahead of the game, preaching the truth and doing our very best, so that people say, well, wait a minute, let me put on the brakes a minute. Wait a minute. I know that, these guys over here, there is some Christians over here that have been telling us about this. Let me take another look. That's what I hope. But many will not. They will immediately turn. The Bible says in the last days that many will fall away. They'll be seduced by these this seducing spirits, doctrines of devils. Many will be deceived and will turn away from the truth, and be turned to the fables that's happening.
That's what's happening right now. That's what's happening right now.
Let me ask you, Mike, also, we'll come back to the alien question in a second, but we also had a thing happen today, yesterday, Pakistan, Afghanistan. What is going on here? That now Afghanistan has responded after Pakistan fired on Afghanistan, and there's some heavy casualties from what I'm hearing tonight.
Yeah.
What's this about?
Well, this is it's not really new. It's not new. There are going to be internal squabbles or disputes that are going to be stoked, right? Stoked. Some of it is coming from a bit of nervousness, and there was talk about the loyalty to the USA was one of the issues with that too, right? So our presence in the Middle East is disrupting things. Let's put it that way. Now,
because we're sitting over there, because we have all these battleships and all this personnel.
It's causing people to get nervous, making them nervous, right? And there are going to be lots of different narratives that come, but there'll be a unifying factor if we don't do this the right way. So, but again, we can't keep our troops over there and on standby forever. That just destroys morale, and that costs a lot of money per day. So we know something is coming pretty quick. Yeah. We know it's coming quick. That's eating up some big money to have troops over there all that time. But speaking to that, Pastor Paul, we just got one of the last vehicles, right? One of the last vessels will be in place, I believe, tomorrow afternoon. One of the last vessels will be in place tomorrow afternoon.
Okay. So you're setting this thing up for Saturday pretty heavy, Mike. It's very possible. Mike, it's not the only problem we got in the world, though. I have one more hot spot. Mexico, and, of course, what's happened here recently at Cuba. But first, Mexico. So El Mincho is gone, and this thing has blown sky high. And Claudia Steinbaum has stepped up. But she's under a lot of pressure because these drug cartels. Who's in charge now? I mean,
it's going to be a war front.
Yeah, tell us about it.
That's going to be a war front. This has been coming for a long time. It's going to be a war front, right? The cartels were okay so long as they were able to move product to the USA.
Yeah.
But you have a Mexican body that stood against the cartels and are standing against them. The problem is the cartels are being. If you were to look at the cartels, I think it would frighten folks because they actually utilize people from different nations like China, the Middle East.
Yeah.
And when I say China, there are division-sized elements in Mexico. Division-sized elements.
What do you mean by division? What do you mean division?
You're talking maybe 100,000 plus people down there, right? Military individuals, matter from China, period.
100,000 Chinese?
More than that. That's just one. There's some things happening in Mexico that is just dangerous, right? There have been private citizens have taken surveillance footage of these shipping containers that constituted like a barracks, right? Training centers, all sorts of things, Pastor Paul. And you're looking at a constant influx of Chinese troops going in and out of Mexico, right? Constantly. And how did the cartels, how did they get Gen 5 fighters? How did they get access to microwave defensive weapons, right? So, we have a developing situation at the border, and the cartels
so the war
are been a mixture of many different military elements, all smashed in Mexico.
So would you say the drug cartels are actually proxies, possibly, for the Chinese?
There you go.
Wow. Well, then you got a battlefield. Then the southern border is more than just stopping fentanyl.
There you go.
And human trafficking and child trafficking and sex trafficking. It's the front line of a war with the United States of America.
There you go. And
this
so
is gigantic.
It's going to get worse. That's why we need the Golden Dome. We have to have the Golden Dome.
We got to have it.
We have to have absolute defense, and we have to have it quickly because I don't know if anybody is paying attention. Time is still going forward. President Trump is setting up everything he can, but President Trump will not be there forever. And when he's no longer there, everything he built up is going to be turned in a different way. It's going to be perverted. And nobody's going to like the outcome of that. The hatred that's being spewed right now from folks, we know it will destroy the system, the democratic system in America when it's gone, right? All the people who serve as in the White House right now, I can guarantee you they're going to be hunted in many different ways. There's a hatred level no one has ever experienced in existence within America right now. I mean, a hatred level that rivals the hatred of a demon, right? Human beings have worst hatred. And what they're saying behind closed doors is worse than what anybody would ever hear in one of the most violent movies you could ever see. The people hate each other. And essentially what we have is the same thing that's happening in Berlin is happening here in America. Folks from different countries are attempting to rewrite the identity of the countries they have entered. And they're very savvy and they'll never give up, right? If they have to do a sympathetic
Heidi made a comment to me a couple of days ago. She said, Paul, Heidi said to me, she said, Paul, who do you think's worse? The drug cartels and the groups that are with them, or ISIS? Who's more dangerous right now? She said. Who's more violent right now? I said, that's a great point. I'm not sure. I can't. I would have said ISIS 2 years ago. I'm not so sure I can say that today. Mike, what is she onto something here?
Yeah, the drug cartels are much bigger, right?
More equipped.
ISIS is trained with the drug cartels. They've trained.
They're all in together.
But I don't believe anybody rivals the drug cartels, Pastor Paul. They will tell you, if you ever speak to one of those guys, they will tell you they're doing what they're doing for gain and nothing else matters. If their own mother's got in the way, they're going to get chopped down. They will tell you that, right?
Yeah.
So they're not good people. They're not doing anything for some deity. That's not what they're doing. They're doing what they're doing for gain, for power.
For power.
They have a severe bloodlust, and anything that gets in the way of that has historically dropped. And they already made the vow right before President Trump came into office that they would seek out and get every single person in the White House who makes decisions, who is connected with anything dealing with, going after them. They will get them first. They'll get them by air. They'll get them by land. They'll get them by, they said, courier. They name so many different ways, and they're serious about it. They will not stop. They just won't stop. Sadly, you have other nations who want the same thing. America's not liked. They're not liked.
No.
Have you noticed when President Trump speaks, everybody just nods their heads, right? They smile and laugh, and
they're buying time.
Nothing. They don't say anything, right? I do not trust that. You can see betrayal everywhere.
Everywhere.
And once the serpent raises its head, and it is just like a serpent, the average person out there, a snake is somewhere close to them. They just don't know it because snakes don't show themselves unless they're about to strike. Well, one day that serpent's going to strike. And when it does, it will strike with maximum, it'll try to make a maximum strike. It's not going to waste its time, right? So these people, again, with this high level of hatred within them, I've never seen it this high.
I haven't either.
I've not seen it this high ever.
I see it in their eyes, Mike. I see it. It's like their eyes flash. Okay, there's like a demon that just goes, you see it, they'll flash. And that hatred is boiling, seething, and they want to say something, but it's like they're all under a secret pact to lay low, to wait.
Yep. Because they know what they know, Pastor, and it's only a matter of time before they step back into power. They already know that. I can almost see them coming back into power, but there'll be no government like we're used to today. I can tell you that now, right? We're not going to have the government we're used to is going to be changed anyway, but even that is not going to work to deter those folks from getting control of this country again.
There's got to be concern about in so many different levels,
Yes.
From the military to the political world to the media world to all over the world. I mean, really,
Yes.
and to your point, let's talk about Cuba. I know this was just one speedboat with 10 guys on it. I'm understanding that there was one of the 10 was a U.S. citizen. The other 9 were Cuban nationals. They were armed.
Yep.
The word is they were trying to do was infiltrate Cuba. Was this a CIA operation, or is this just guys are frustrated, or what's going on here?
Pastor, there's so many people operating, often non-sanctioned operators.
Okay.
That I wouldn't be surprised because right after Venezuela, we were going to do something in that area, and now it's opened itself up to us, right? So here we are with another place where certain things will be enforced, things that have never been enforced before, which wouldn't be a bad thing. And Cuba, by the way, that's Russia's.
Yeah, I know.
Favorite
They claim
base,
that.
right? So,
yeah,
we're going to boot them out of there. We have to.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
too
we
close
have
to us. It's too close to us. And so that somewhat opened the door. So I guess in this case, you could say what was meant for evil is going to be used for the good.
Yeah. It almost makes me, I'm not going to say it was a false flag, but it sure pays. It's almost like we sent the little speedboat with these 10 guys, like Israel sent the 10 spies, but it's like we sent the little speedboat
just to
see if we can have a problem. And then now that we got a problem, now we're going to make a move. I'm not saying it's, I'm not military mind, but
things happen like that all the time, though. They do.
So in other words, Cuba, stay tuned. That chapter is yet to come.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, Mike, as we go forward here now, we've talked about all these different things. We haven't brought up the 5 waves of energy or Planet X or the things that's affecting the sun in a while. The sun is highly volatile. Is there any news of what we haven't been hearing? Maybe is there something going on out there that's approaching that we need to be? Let me just tell you what. I had a conversation with a guy this week who reminded me of a 1980, what we used to be called the World Encyclopedia.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1980 or 81, somewhere in there, the World Encyclopedia came out with the sun and an object crossing in front of the sun between the earth and the sun. I actually had a picture of it. And this was discussed. And then all of a sudden, now on the internet, you cannot find that picture anywhere. But he still got that old encyclopedia with the picture in it. He took a snapshot of it and sent it to me by a text. And I said, I'm going to ask Mike. I don't know what else to do with this. Mike, is there something there?
Well, look, right now, we have an opposing. There's some. Nobody really looks up anymore, right? Nobody looks up. So let's say on March 3rd, we have a solar event. March 3rd and 4th, we have a solar
blood moon.
event.
We're going to have a blood moon.
The only way anybody could ever know that, with a solar event, like a CME or something like that, the only way somebody could ever know that is to know the positioning of objects that are already around the sun. And also to know what the sun really is. Look, here's another issue with disclosure. If disclosure comes out, the nature of the sun is going to change in everybody's understanding.
Really? If disclosure about aliens or extraterrestrials or fallen angels or whatever, if disclosure comes out,
the nature of the sun is going to change in everybody's understanding.
The nature of the sun will change. What about the moon? Yeah.
That too. Well, the moon will do it. It's going to have its own disclosure soon enough. The
So
moon
you're
will.
saying March 3rd there's going to be a solar event. Now there is a blood moon. I mean, that's a lunar event.
Somewhere between March 3rd and 4th.
Okay.
A solar event
Well,
of
let's go
some
back to
type.
this. So what do you? So
Because
let's go back to
our
yeah.
sun is changing, and I don't know how many people are paying attention to it, right? But after, for example, another example, after March 11th and March 11th, 12th, 13th, and 14th, um, I believe that's when everybody will start to pick up on something from the sun and start issuing reports. I kind of backed off because the internet is so saturated with explanations, right? Scientific explanations as to what the sun is doing. Or, people are engaging in that, learning about the dynamics of the sun. But the activity of the sun is quite dangerous to Earth. That'll be painfully obvious as we begin to entertain yet another type of phenomena of the sun that we haven't seen in some time, right? We have been nothing but blessed. Some of these major flares that have been coming off the sun, even the holes that have been Earth facing, we still did not endure a direct hit from that, right?
Right,
But
we didn't.
the heating of the sun, the chemistry of the sun, it continues to change. It will continue to change, and it's going to be obvious to a lot of people some of the changes of the sun. It will be directly responsible for changing our skies in the first place, because we will slowly begin to endure a golden sky, right?
Yeah.
Just a golden sky, but that's going to be a very dangerous golden sky. And then, of course, we'll have different anomalies that will take place on the surface of the Earth yet again, um, and the properties of the Earth will go into a hyper mode. We've been seeing slow changes in weather phenomena, in geology, right? And the heating of the oceans, and all of this will begin to speed up. It's going to speed up. It's going to escalate, right? We'll see that with some of the storms that will entertain. Our orbit, by the way, anybody who has a sundial has probably noticed a somewhat of a 4-degree change in that sundial, right? Now, sundials have a 5-year period where they repeat. That shadow is repeated with that sundial. But unfortunately, this year did not repeat, which means the Earth is tilting a little more than expected, right? Which means that double wobble is becoming more and more notable. And anytime the Earth starts to imbalance itself, naturally, we're going to have more and more earthquakes and fractures, which means volcanic eruptions, right? And the volcanic eruptions, now that they're watching, are so close to populated areas, they don't want to talk about them. They do not want to talk about them. There are advisements out to not speak about certain things due to these volcanoes in populated areas. Unfortunately, we'll begin to entertain that too, because we're really in a cycle of change, just absolute change, where everything will become obvious to the average person.
Yeah, so this is significant, and this is partly what even the Bible talks about. The sun will be signs in the sun, the moon, the stars, of course, but actual the sun being heated up, the sun burning men's skin, and they curse God, they
Yep.
blaspheme God because of the sun,
Yep.
because of the effects of the sun. There'll be
Yep.
famines and plagues like we haven't seen before. All of
Yep.
that was. I read Matthew 24 for everybody tonight
Yep.
before you came on, just to remind you what did Jesus say. Just read what Jesus says. I mean,
Yeah.
then take a look at what's happening, and you see so much of that. So I will be watching for March 3rd,
Oh,
March
yeah.
4th,
Yeah.
and March 11th through 14th, and then as this thing develops, we see more the tilting. That's mentioned in Isaiah 24. Talks about the earth going to wobble. It's going to be reel and rock like a drunkard. That's some kind of a wobble.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're going to have all of these. What about, Mike? You brought up the snowstorms. You talk about these storms. Okay, we had that 2,000-mile storm that was outrageous. Then we had a nor'easter that dumped 3 foot of
Yep.
snow.
Yeah.
I mean, these are two massive storms in 3 weeks. That is so unusual. And then before that, we had our atmospheric river that come flowing out of Washington and Oregon, and the flooding in Northern California, and the craziness. I mean, these are three iconic storms that have not, I mean, these are three storms that are just off the chart iconic, happening in a 6-week period, let's say.
Yeah.
We can't blame it on the groundhog. I mean, there's something else going on here, right?
Yeah. We, of course, I believe we live in a binary system. And as we continue to, conditions external from us continue to change, we're going to see vast changes in the weather. The appetizers that we just have with these storms, those were appetizers. But before they ever started, I told people to look at the potential of snow that would fall. Right, we've been having a lot of rain. That same potential in snow means a lot of snow. But that rate of precipitation is going to increase and continue to increase, Pastor Paul, until there's not one place on this earth a person will be able to, step in and won't be mushy. So we can expect a whole lot more water from these storms. Imagine a storm that spans the USA, right? And it picks up moisture from the Pacific, drops it all throughout the USA. Now, instead of a storm having, maybe a front line that goes from Texas to New York, imagine a front that goes from California to New York, and it's raining the entire time. And that's your atmospheric river. So imagine an atmospheric river that spans the totality of the USA in that way, right? There's dropping water in the USA. Are we really ready to handle something like that? Because that's precisely what we're going to face. And some of the coastal places, New Orleans, for example, did they build up their break walls to withstand some of the ocean's more turbulent times that are on the way? Are they really preparing for this? And due to the sun's nature, where it's not raining, it's going to dry out and it's going to become a tinderbox. So you can have it raining in Southern California and totally be on fire in Northern California, right? Normally it's the opposite way around. But due to some of these conditions, and that stark nature between hot and cold, and some of these frontal systems that will come in with the isobars or fast winds that will take effect, and we're going to have some real weather phenomena that's going to do some real damage. My word to everybody is make sure that you are knowledgeable with floods and how to get out of your neighborhood, right? In case a flood or fire comes, to make sure you're familiar with escape routes, to make sure you're familiar with this, because some people they're going to have to do just that. They will have to do just that. We're going to deal with a lot of water, a lot of wind, a lot of fire.
Folks, that sounded like a good song, but I think that was Earth, Wind, and Fire. I think that was, trying to remember who sung that. Was that Chicago, Heidi? Who sung Earth, Wind, and Fire? No, it wasn't Bachman Turner Overdrive. Mike, but what you're saying is, got a little chuck out of Heidi, that one. But to your point, we're going to see massive changes on the Earth and massive stronger winds and fire raging, the sun getting hotter, volcanic eruptions, pole shifting, things that are going to happen. And isn't it strange, Mike, that all of these Earth changes will be happening at the same time there's war changes and human changes and demonic changes. It's all simultaneously happening in a collective way, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the iniquity of mankind, right, curses the earth more than what it was, and it's always going to have, you're going to have that connection there. If mankind were to ever change, I believe that all of it would subside. But the worse man gets, well, the less the earth, or the more the earth responds with its violence, it seems.
Yeah,
and that's a very sad thing. That's very sad thing.
It is all about the heart of man and where our heart is with God. And at some point, God says that's enough. He did it once before in Noah's day, and then he Noah found grace, but
Yeah.
the church is finding the grace now. But we better stay ready. I mean, we better stay ready, folks, because
Absolutely.
he's coming. Mike, I tell you what, next week I'm still, of course, going to be out here on the other side of the world. So
Just send me a link.
I'm going to send you a link like this. This sounded
Yeah.
real good, and it's a good
Yeah.
connection. And that way we'll do it this way. Okay.
All right. Works well.
I appreciate you, Mike, working with me and figuring it out. And this is great information tonight. This was very prophetic broadcast, and I will be praying. Everybody be praying, because I think in the next 48 hours we may be in a different world. We don't even know what that could be. You put out so many different scenarios how this could play out, that we better be prepared for anything.
Absolutely.
So I thank you, Mike. Thank you for being with us tonight.
It's always an honor, Pastor Paul.
The honor's mine, and I truly mean that.
All right.
God bless you.
God bless.